重い攻めにはこういけ、軽い攻めにもこういけ。それだ、御社は俺次第。
Hey, what's up? It's your boy Asian Psycho, aka ToSniper98. It's been a few months since my last how-to meme, and I said I'd do one on Lance Oratoria in that one Bond video that I made that triggered at least a few Facebook whales, so here it is. Lance Oratoria is, obviously, a 5-star Lancer who debuted with the Camelot Singularity as one of the story-locked servants for that Singularity, and she's a great farming servant just like her vanilla self. In fact, because Lord Ashura always bitches that I'm not concise with my shit, Lancer Ceiba is essentially vanilla Ceiba in a different class, and with one different skill and bigger plots. Much bigger plots. Mufasa has 15,606 HP and 10,995 attack at level 90, and when fully grailed, she's got 17,097 HP and 12,036 attack. She has standard Lancer class star weight and star gen, 1.1% MP charge on attack, 4% MP charge on defense, a 24% death rate, and she's lawful stupid. Wait, that's her saber form. She's got your typical 2Q2B Lancer deck with a Buster NP. Her quick cards hit 3 times, her arts card hits twice, her Buster cards hit once, and her extra attack hits 5 times. This means that she's okay at Star Gen, though she's not as good at it as other Lancers are because she has no Star Gen buffs of her own and she has a kit concentrated on offense, which means that most of the time you should be putting her on DPS duty rather than Star Gen duty if you can help it, but it is an option in case you do need stars. She does have decently consistent MP gain just because of her raw MP charge stat, but it gets really good when you can lead off with arts cards or if you can get her crit stars on her quick and arts cards. And if you get both, her MP gain gets pretty insane, and that's before factoring her battery. And speaking of her battery, let's move on to her skills, though more than half of it you've already seen somewhere else. Cleavage King's first skill is Mana Burst, which increases her own Buster performance by 30-50% for 1 turn on a 7-5 turn cooldown. Very straightforward skill, and the same skill that her no plot version has. Use this in conjunction with her MP for big tits, I mean big damage. Her second skill is Charisma B, which increases party attack by 9-18% for 3 turns on a 7-5 turn cooldown. Again, another straightforward skill taken straight from OG Ceiba, just in a different order, I guess. Now her third skill is what prevents her kit from being a straight up copy pasta from OG Ceiba's. Blessings from the End of the World EX charges her MP gauge by 30-50% and removes her debuffs on an 8-6 turn cooldown. Her third skill is, in my opinion, her most impactful skill. It allows her to give herself a massive boost in MP gain every 6 turns if you have it at max level. Usually just having a 50% battery on its own is a huge advantage for any servant, but Lance Oratoria has good MP gain on top of it, as we've just discussed. And since Lance Oratoria's MP has the same overcharge effect that OG's does with the whole refund mechanic thing, if you get a Brave Chain with her and you happen to score crits with her arts card as anchor, you can potentially MP back to back with her if you use her battery to charge up for her second MP. What this in turn means is that Lancer Ceiba's third skill tremendously increases her damage output, albeit somewhat indirectly, since the more she can spam her NP, naturally the more she'll be penetrating the earth with a big ass spear, and you can blame this dick for that joke. And if all else fails, just know that a battery skill is infinitely better than fucking instinct. Wait, what do you mean just wait another 2 years? Her passive skills are Magic Resist B, which increases her own debuff resist by 17.5%, and Riding A, which increases her quick card performance by 10%. These are the 2 same passives that OG has, but Metro Goldwyn Mayer trades a rank of Magic Resist for a rank up in Riding, which makes sense since she's actually riding a damn horse, and you would have thought that they should have put her into the rider class instead of this fucking walking fetishmonger. And because she's got 2 quick cards, Lance Oratoria can make use of her riding passive infinitely more than OG can. Hooray for not having not so useless passive skills. Woohoo! Anakin Pendragon's NP is Rongominiad. Which is a Buster AoE MP that first activates Ignore Invul for 1 turn, and then deals 300-500% damage and refunds your MP gauge by 20-60%. Mechanically speaking, this NP is essentially Excalibur, plus the Pierce Invul effect, of course. course. As y'all probably found out the hard way during Camelot, you can't dodge Rongo because of it, meaning that the only way for enemies to survive it is by casting Guts or by stacking a shit ton of defense buffs just to face tank it head on. Also keep in mind that like Jack's anti-waifu buff, Rondo's Invul Pierce effect is considered a standalone buff, so if you have any more of Lancer Artoria's command cards following up, they too will pierce Invul in case anyone on the enemy team has evasion or Invul active. So in case an enemy's annoying the crap out of you with constant evasion spams, just drop Rongo on their ass, just like how Scar dropped Mufasa's ass. Alright, so normally this section of the video would be called the quote-unquote general strat section, where I tell you how a servant is best used and what kind of strategies that they're best geared for when you use them in battle. But to be honest, because Lancer Artoria's kit is really straightforward and thus simple to understand, and because she plays very similarly to OG Ceiba, I won't bother with the usual general strats this time around. Instead, what I will do is try to explain to you why I feel that Lancer Artoria is honestly a really underrated SSR. My argument for this mainly hinges on just how ridiculously good she is at farming, and for those of you who've been watching the channel for some time now, you probably saw this coming from a mile away. But hear me out anyway. I'll start by talking about the big picture first. Typically, and I'd like to emphasize that word again here, typically, whenever people discuss the viability or strength of a servant in FGO, they're discussing how good they are in tougher content fights, think singularity battles or event challenge quests and the like. In this context, Lancer Artoria falls short because she has no hard defense in her kit, like evasion, invul, or guts. It's this flaw that causes people to put her under the radar, and combined with her minimalistic kit that doesn't seem to offer anything mechanically unique other than maybe the Invul Pierce on her NP, people think of Lancer Artoria as just a mediocre SSR whom you can overlook in favor of other SSR Lancers, or just other SSRs in general who have flashier or more unique skills. In addition, servant review videos on Lancer Artoria pretty much echo these concerns. In particular, Soberoni cites her lack of hard defense, like I mentioned earlier, and mechanical deviation as her main weaknesses, with K Collections also stating similar concerns. While these are legitimate criticisms, unfortunately what this does is underplay the sheer gameplay value that Lancer Artoria can give you, and as I mentioned before, most of that value does come from farming. But if I'm hyping her up so much just because of her farming potential, then naturally the next question is just how good of a farmer is she exactly? Well, to start off, Lancer Artoria's kit is perfect for farming. A charisma, a mana burst, and a 50% battery. Or in other words, a party buff, a self NP buff, and a manual NP charge. Let's talk about just her attack buffs first. Charisma is great because of two reasons. It buffs the party, meaning that it helps your other servants in your frontline farm better, and it gives Lancer Artoria two different buff modifiers. You may have heard from other places that buffs of the same type stack additively while buffs of different types stack multiplicatively, but what does that mean exactly? Let's say that, for example, shoutouts to Leaf over at Farmville, a servant has 4 attack buffs currently active: a 20% attack buff, a 50% attack buff, a 20% buster buff, and a 30% buster buff. To calculate how much damage you'll do with these buffs, you have to add the same buffs together and then multiply them, so you'll end up with 2.55 times damage, giving you more damage than if all the attack buffs were from the same type. This is important because there are not very many SSRs in FGO who have a combination of a party buff, damage steroid, and an AoE NP. Specifically, only OG Ceiba, AUO, and Brony have this combination as of current content FGO, and I'll also include inferior Rinface because she's going to come out soon with the new Christmas event. And even then, Gil's NP buff is tied to his NP, requires an interlude, and isn't a 50% buff, and Ishtar's 50% attack buff is a delay buff, and her mana burst is also tied to her NP's overcharge. This means that only OG Ceiba, Lancer Artoria, and Iskander have access to all their buffs on command because their buffs are only tied to their skills, but neither OG Ceiba nor Iskander have batteries, or at least not right now because we're not JP, which means that Lancer Artoria is the only SSR in the game to have this specific combination of effects available on demand. This is also important because with Charisma and Mana Burst, Lancer Artoria is self-sufficient on damage buffs, or or at least she's not as reliant on teammates for damage buffs like other servants are, who might only have like one damage boost skill, or sometimes even none at all. It does suck though that she's yet to get an MP interlude buff, but the fact that the combo of a party buff, a damage steroid, and a 50% battery is unique to Lancer Artoria, for now on NA anyway, outvalues her lack of an MP interlude in my opinion. And all that was just about her first two skills. I'm not even done jerking myself off over her third skill yet like it's a Voice of Sancort's video. A 50% battery means that you no longer have to rely on gimmicky whale shit like double waver or a limit broken scope, and instead just go with other CEs that are much easier to get and start you off with MP charge, like Imaginary Element or Limit Broken Drags and Meridian, or if anyone even has that shit Limit Broken. In addition, there are quite a few events in which event-exclusive CEs give you starting charge, with the Da Vinci event, 2017 Halloween event for NA, and the upcoming 2018 Christmas event being examples of this. While you might not necessarily use Lancer Artoria herself to farm these nodes, the fact that there are plenty of events that give you opportunities to obtain limit broken CEs that give 50% starting MP charge means that there are plenty of strong CE options to give your own Lancer Artoria if you manage to max out her battery. Well, actually, I take that back. Fuck Halloween Princess. Even in events where you might not have CEs that give starting MP charge, the 50% battery gives Lancer Artoria significant viability in event farming nodes, and the most prominent example of this was Neurofest 2018, where she was one of only 2 possible servants who could be used for a viable 3-turn farming strat on the last 40 AP pedal node for Neurofest finals. Okay, that was enough circle jerking, let's dial it back a bit. Even after all this gushing, if you don't care about farming, none of this shit matters, and Lancer Artoria probably isn't the type of servant you're looking for unless you're a Ceiba fanboy, since she really doesn't do anything special, and she isn't a meme. Well, maybe her tits are. And it doesn't help that this video was made from the perspective of a whale, so the majority of you watching this video probably will never really get the chance to experience firsthand just how godlike of a farmer Lancer Artoria is, unless it's through watching some fucking degenerate whale stream as farming or something. So let me just put it this way instead, in a way that'll maybe convince those of you who aren't convinced yet. You spend the majority of your time in this game farming, while the actual quote-unquote content only occupies a small percentage of your playing time because you're farming to prepare your servants for that content in the first place, or at least that's how it should be. Lancer Artoria, while maybe not your best bet for harder content, does help you significantly in the farming department in a way that few others are able, by providing a level of convenience that few others are able to provide. That alone, I think, is worth at least a handful of quartz to toss at her whenever she shows up on Raid Up. And speaking of which, the Night of the Round banner should be coming soon, TM, and so hopefully this video is out before then.
You're late.
For what?
Fair enough.
So now that I spent like 10 whole frickin' minutes colonizing her huge tracts of land, let's get back on topic. The king needs Kingsman, but it depends on what you're using the king for. If you're sending her out on story battles, or if you want tougher content fights, cause you want to prove the haters wrong, give her teammates who can help protect her and give her defense buffs. Wavy Boy is both an obvious and ideal choice, like he is for fucking everybody, but especially with Brazzers Artoria, since you can NP on command if you combine his skills with Lancer Artoria's battery. But Best Knight, her archer self, Slingshot Boy, and anyone else who has party defense buffs or targetable hard defense skills are good bodyguards as well. If you're sending her out to farm, which is probably most of the time, give her additional buffers so that she can maximize her damage output. Because she's got her own charisma and buster buffs, try to give her someone who can give her an MP buff, like Good Civ Girl, Macedonian Thick Boy, or Rocket Javelin Boy, but it doesn't have to be these 3. Anyone with strong party or targetable buffs will do. Special shout out goes to Linkin Park Girl for her double charisma buff on Dragon allies. And Waver fits here too, as usual. Well, I already spent like half the fucking video talking about CEs, right? Wait, what do you mean that was only about 50% starting charge CEs? Jokes aside though, other than the starting charge CEs, consider going with damage CEs like LZO, Launch Order, Heaven's Feel, or Black Grail, Collide Ruby, or the recent and straight up better version of it, Heroine Eli-chan's Adventure. Or if you'd like to give Plot King some additional defense or sustain, consider Volumen, Naked Kirei, Original Legion, or Moonbath in case you have it still for some reason. Her own max bond CE, King's Horse, increases party attack and MP damage both by 10% when she's got it equipped and is on the field. This actually isn't a bad CE for farming, since with waivers she can get her MP on command and deal extra damage with her own bond CE while it also supports her teammates. You just need to get used to tapping waivers buttons all day, but maybe some of you are into that. Adult Ceiba is a phenomenal farming lancer who boasts a combination of skills that only she possesses, at least for the time being. Her kit as a whole is simple and easy to grasp, yet strong when leveled up, which I know is a novel idea to some people who don't believe in farming. And she kinda makes you wonder how different Fate's Day Night would have been if Justice Boy summoned this Ceiba instead of the vanilla one, and how disappointed Gil would have been. That's all you need to know about the Lion King.
Why the fuck you lying?
Free fire.
Why you always lying?
Nice.
Oh my god.
Next video will be on Drake. No, not that Drake. Thanks for watching, and until next time, deuces.
夏の空